Hey, that's pretty good. The Raptors get a win over the Detroit Pistons, 119 to 118. A close game at the end, came down to some free throws, some turnovers, a couple late threes from Jaden Ivey, and of course, the Raptors coming away with a win, which is nice to see. I am Samson Folk. This is the Raptors Reaction Podcast, and is brought to you by Goldfinger Law. And hey, if you want to figure out some law stuff, a good place to go is Goldfinger. You know why? Because you only pay if you win. So if you lose, you don't have to pay them. The upsides of that are pretty obvious. So if you want to contact them, 416-730-1777. A quick thing. My apologies for the last reaction podcast. I did miss it. God, I had a sickness running through me. I'm feeling better now. So thank you to everybody who for the well wishes, and thank you to everybody for that. Jack being one of them. I'm joined by Jack Kelly. Okay, so he's with the Pistons blog over at SB Nation, of course, and my favorite writer over there. When I want to know what the Pistons are up to, Jack is my guy I tune in with. And I hope everybody's extremely pleased to hear his voice because we've got an accent coming in. Jack, how you doing?
I'm good, man. Thanks so much for having me on and for the kind words. You know how much I respect your work over at Raptors Republic and everyone over there. Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. And yeah, let's chop up the game.
Yeah, so the first thing I want to ask you, and by the way, for hey, just for because most of the listener slash viewership is in Canada, this Canada Team Canada soccer jersey, $30 down from 120. Okay, so at the Nike outlet, these things are crazy on sale for anybody who wants a good deal. Okay, so the Pistons lose, which is, as far as the macro sense, a good thing for your team. Yes, no. What are your thoughts on that?
It is good. But when you've been doing it for, I've been a Pistons fan for just over a decade. So I haven't seen a lot of winning. So look, it's good, like you said, in a macro sense, but I'm at the point now where I know Victor Wembanyama's waiting there for all the teams at there's a tank race, but I'm at the point where I like seeing these competitive games. I like seeing the young guys string some wins together if possible. Like I just tweeted out last game, if there's a win to be had, go get it. And I cop some flack, but yeah, I think wins are important. And so I guess tonight was sort of a good game from a viewership standpoint for me to see them, battle it out with the Raptors and then eventually fall short. But look, I guess you could say a loss is a good thing. But I'm
So
I'm getting a bit tired.
So the first thing I want to talk about is kind of your perception of the Raptors coming in and if watching this game it kind of met what you expected.
Yes, it did. My biggest concern coming into the game tonight was the Pistons are a team that do not move the ball. You go and look at any of the tracking data. I tweeted some stuff out last week. They're in the bottom three for passes per game. They're in the top three for seconds per possession. So they hold the ball. They don't really move it. So the Raptors' length always scares me. Any team that has size and length scares me with the Pistons because they'll just get in there and they'll deny the ball. It's really simple stuff, but they'll deny the ball, they'll get deflections, they'll block shots at the rim, and that gets them out in transition. And I thought the Raptors played with a nice pace tonight, and that's sort of what helped them in that third quarter get out to that quick lead. And um, so I guess the Raptors did live up to sort of what I expected. um, I'm still a bit confused with where the Raptors are as on a whole,
Yeah.
which I'm sure you guys discuss at length. Um, but yeah, the game sort of played out how I thought it would. Dwayne Casey, whenever we come up against the Raptors, he's going to have the guys ready to go, and it's going to be a close game. So the game sort of did live up to, I guess, the expectations I had.
And so the next thing I have to know about is your thoughts on Scottie Barnes because he obviously Cade, they were in the running for rookie of the year together last season and Cade with the horrible injury luck this season. But Scottie Barnes is somebody who I think Raptors fans paid close attention to Cade Cunningham for pernicious reasons to critique him perhaps heavily. And I think Pistons fans do the same thing with Scottie Barnes. And I'm curious what you thought of Scottie in this game.
Yeah, I thought Scotty played a really nice game in that third scoring role, behind Pascal and Fred, of course. He's just, I mean, I still have a lot of stock in Scotty. I mean,
Hmm.
I have not. I've never been one to go and bash draft picks. I mean, Jalen
Yeah.
Green a little bit because he said some things, but man, I think Scotty, I think Scotty, like, there's so much potential there. And you wrote an excellent piece, which is actually how I came across you on Twitter, an excellent
Oh,
piece on Scotty in the off season. And I love that because I think he's just the perfect blend of he can be that awesome connector piece, but I feel like there's a lot more there to be untapped as someone who can create off the dribble. I'm not saying he's Kevin Durant. I don't think anyone's saying that, but I think, tonight, I think he was 5 or 6 on the floor, got to the line, hit a dagger corner three. I mean, if he can really, and he's got all the tools to be an excellent defender. So I'm high on Scotty, and I thought he played a great game tonight.
20 points on 6 shots is pretty gnarly for a guy to accomplish. He was 3 of 4 from downtown, 7 of 10 from the line. It's just that type of efficiency, as you said, in that third scoring role that not only is helpful throughout the game, but really shows up when you zoom out and see that they won in a pretty run and gun game by the end of it, 119 to 118. And Pascal with 28, 4 and 6, Fred with 35, 3 and 8. The stars of the Raptors leading the way. What did you think of what Detroit did to try and stop the Raptors and what, well, not the Raptors, those two, and how they overcame that?
Well, I think the Pistons in the first quarter, the starters, the defense was there's a lot of miscommunications. That's been a theme throughout the season. I really felt like the Pistons got back in the game once Isaiah Livers checked in. He's stepped up into a bigger role with Sadiq Bey. I'm pretty sure that trade just got is close to being confirmed, and I hope it is because I'm not going to talk about Wiseman on this pod, but Isaiah Livers is his team defense. I'll have some clips posted in the morning. But his communication, his just ability to stay in front of his man, he's a crucial piece off the bench for this team. And I feel like himself, once he came in, the defense picked up. They were hitting their threes to begin with, which always helps. And and then I guess and I'm really happy they kept Bogdanovic because you see, oh, Bojan Bogdanovic, I should know better, but because his creation, man, like, and I'm not sure if you noticed tonight, his ability to
Yeah.
finish at the rim for a partially balding 33-year-old with a dad bod. Like, I tell you what, man, there's not many guys at that age who finish like he does. So I feel like I think he finished with 30 plus.
Hmm.
Isaiah Stewart finally got his 3-point shot going. I think he was 3 for 4. Raptors fans will love to know he was shooting 15% since January 1st coming into the game. So, and then Jaden Ivey closed the game well, and his passing off drives has been a real bright spot of late.
That's Trevor Gleeson, fellow Australian. That was when he was, I think, interviewed at first half. He said Isaiah's made his threes, so that's something. He kind of had like a little bit of a shot taken at it. Bogdanovich really intrigues me because you could see on some of his moves to create space for his jumper. You could see like there was a spin jumper on the right side of the floor where he banked it in. There was a step back where there's no wasted motion. That's
Yeah,
how the dad bod, balding 33-year-old guy gives you a 30 burger, right? It's no wasted motion. It's knowing that if he uses the screen and his body, he's not getting by on quickness. He's going to leverage his physicality, seal his man, come downhill, use his body once again, and then, sometimes a wrong-footed finish off the glass, all
yeah,
this kind of stuff to keep you at bay. And he's strong, like an ox. So I definitely noticed Bogdanovich. He was awesome in this game. And Jaden at the end, obviously, and Alec Burks,
oh
man, they
yeah,
did a lot of work to keep the Pistons in this. Bogdanovich just threw out, giving them a lot of scoring, and Burks obviously really, really hot. Hamidou Diallo as well, right? 18 points, 7 boards.
yeah,
Hammy is one of the most interesting players in the NBA because of his limitations, but the fact that he is at 6'5" with his athletic gifts, an actually viable dunker spot player. Like, I know everybody was like, "Oh my God, Bruce Brown," when he was first popping off with the Nets, and Bruce did deserve that, and he's still very interesting now. But Hamidou Diallo has been playing a similar role, just with less talented players. He's very interesting in the way that he kind of shades his offensive players, and I love the way he moves. He also hit a couple jumpers tonight, one of which was uh, had a soundtrack of "Hell No" from the Raptors, and it went in. Yeah, but I guess to go back to the one question is like, Fred and Pascal as far as how they succeeded. Fred early and throughout, Pascal late. I kind of want to talk about how the Raptors were spamming Chicago action and just getting Pascal into space and why you thought the Pistons had so much trouble with that.
I think it honestly comes down to communication and stuff again. I hate to sound sort of boring with my responses, but um, I mean, Pascal, like he struggled. I think he started 2 for 9, and then
Yeah.
you just see in that second half, like he's got so much in his bag. Obviously, the spin move, but the spin jumper, and I mean, Isaiah Stewart was playing good defense on him at times, and Pascal just used his length and his overall just coordination just to finish over and through Stewart. And yeah, man, I like with the Pistons, it honestly, it always comes down to on defense, unfortunately, communication and personnel. I know like they just don't have the wings right now. I mean, you mentioned Hamidou Diallo and your assessment was spot on offensively, but on defense, the thing that holds Hami back is he would just get lost, or he's always looking to
Mhm.
go for steals, or the thing, Hami's always going to create chaos, and I think Pascal just took advantage. And then even Fred, like there was multiple times where I hate to keep going too much back to the Pistons, but
Yeah.
um, Fred just got some wide open threes off miscommunications, but he was also just dialed in. He's shooting well in the mid range. Um, so yeah, those two, I mean, they're all stars that you had. They're the two best players on the floor, and they played like it.
Yeah. That's why I thought it's kind of watching them, and for the people who don't know at home, Chicago action is a dribble handoff with a screen in the middle, typically run from the corner. And so the Raptors kept going to that with Jakob as the guy with the handoff, Fred as the screen in the middle for Siakam, and then Siakam coming off both Fred and Pirtle into space. A lot of times this can be flipped into Jakob setting a screen on Fred's man into a flare or a pin down following the play. It can transition into a pick and roll. But what the Raptors usually ended up doing was it was a means to get a switch for Siakam, and then Siakam flattening things out and finding a shot to hit. Or especially if Jakob filters down onto the block and it's, Fred and Pascal above the break, if Fred's guy helps off of him, then Pascal has an easy outlet to Fred, that like above the break wing on the left that he's been so good at. And the Raptors, I think they ran it 6 times in a row in the fourth quarter. And with that, the Pistons a couple times were like, okay, we're going to reject this. And then the ball got sent to the other side. And then when the Pistons started reacting that way and Jakob got fouled out, the Raptors brought in Thaddeus Young and they reorganized it so they stopped including Pascal in that 3-man action and started working the 3-man action with Scottie, Yak, and Fred so that they could shift the ball to the other side for Pascal to get an empty side pick and roll or empty side look with Precious Achiuwa. Pretty fun, pretty simple basketball, but I think this goes back to what you're saying about we're talking about personnel mostly with the Pistons. And that's why this isn't necessarily like a home run wing or a home run win for the Raptors where you say like they're world beaters. Jakob came in, now they're going to go for it all. It's that the Raptors, they had the two best players on the court. You could argue the three best. You could go head to head with Scottie and Bogdanovich. Most people would say Bogdanovich. Raptors listeners will say Scottie probably, but the Raptors out talented them, and they also allowed 118 points. With Jakob in, the defense was much better. But I kind of want to get your point of view, Jack, about how the Pistons were succeeding in this game against the Raptors after having a very, very slow start.
Um, Honestly, man, like I thought Jaden Ivey did an exceptional job of just bending the defense and
Yeah.
driving and kicking. And I'm actually writing a little piece just featuring on Jaden, but his passes off drives are up by like 15% in the past fortnight.
Mm.
And Dwayne Casey spoke about it in the post game following the Spurs win on
Wait,
Friday night.
did you say Fortnite?
Yeah.
Wow. That is like not a North American, that is not around in North American terminology. That's like Shakespearean era.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So a fortnight is a month?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Hey, there you go. Okay.
You
Sorry,
actually,
sorry.
bro,
Yeah, we
that
don't
has rattled
in
me.
Canada and
Yeah.
America, no fortnight. That's great. Yeah, thank you. Anyway,
So the
go ahead.
past 2 weeks, He's passing off drives. He's up 15%. Just trying to help everyone out at home, you know?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So like for the Pistons, their offense, and you would know very well as a Raptors fan, there's not going to be a lot of creativity in the offense. But when you have Jaden attacking downhill and passing, it just opens up the offense for Detroit. And because in the past he was looking to finish, and he's finishing, he's been struggling. Like he's finishing around the rims, like been around 40% for a while now. And so to have him bend the defense, get the defense just rotating, get some, because that's the thing with the Raptors. If you just let them sit still on their man, they will just disrupt. And that's what they did to Detroit throughout large portions of the game. But um, I don't know. I think Jalen Duran, he went down with an ankle injury, so he normally is good for 10 to 12 points on the offensive glass. It was really just Bojan Bogdanovic getting open, creating handoff actions, um, and making some tough shots. I mean, that's the thing with Detroit's offense. It's never going to wow you. It's a lot of pick and roll, a lot of pin downs in the corner, and it can honestly get a lot, like, be quite ISO heavy. So it relies on players like Burks, like Bogdanovic, um, creating off the bounce or hitting open threes or contested threes.
Mhm. And the outsider's perspective on Poeltl. They're not world beaters. We know that much. But Jakob Poeltl gets his first start with the Raptors this season, his fourth or fifth, I think, with the Raptors all time since he was drafted here. And 6 points, 5 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals. That 1 assist was pretty early on in the game. Not necessarily even a laydown because he wasn't in motion, but Scottie on a back cut receives it, gets a dunk. Very nice
Yeah.
to see. There's clearly some stuff happening there, and the Raptors were better, 11 points better with Jakob on the floor, most of that on the defensive end. Did you think that he made the Raptors? Like you felt his presence
Yeah.
when you were watching it? Because as a Raptors fan, or someone who covers the Raptors, I should say, not that. I'm impartial, great media person anyway. Um, as someone who covers the Raptors, I can certainly tell when there's an intimidating presence in the middle of the floor, and I'm curious on the litmus test of scary to not scary. Where was Pirtle showing up for you?
You definitely felt his presence. Like, I mean, I think he had 3 blocks, something like that. Um, I'm pretty sure he had 3 blocks. I hope I'm right there.
Hmm.
So he was defending the rim. And like you mentioned in that Chicago action, I feel like he's such a vital piece, or can be a really useful piece on offense. That's something Detroit don't really have in Durant and Stewart as of yet. Like I'm not going offensive hub might be a stretch, but just someone who
Hmm.
can create out of DHO. He's going to make the right pass. Like you said, he found Scotty. Was that in the first quarter to open the game?
Hmm. Yep.
Um, yeah, for a nice drop off pass there. And then defensively, he's a veteran. He's going to make all the right reads. He's solid. I mean, I'm not sure what Jakob's rebounding numbers were, but I know the Pistons got killed on the glass tonight. So I feel like Jakob's a really good positional rebounder, even if he's not grabbing them. He's definitely someone who's going to box out. So while I'm not sure about the trade itself in terms of the Raptors as a whole, I think bringing him in is definitely going to help this team win games, because I know from following Raptors, people like yourself, um, a big man has been the topic of conversation for a while now. So yeah, it definitely felt Jakob tonight.
Yeah, Jakob, I think that the rebounding, he's probably closer to a guy who you'll see the on-offs represent that he helps the rebounding a lot, where his rebounding numbers don't ever really balloon. But you could see it tonight with like Precious playing 33 minutes and getting 11 rebounds. Chris Boucher coming off the bench, right, getting 5. Thaddeus Young getting 5. Being paired with Pirtle on the floor, he's going to box out a lot. He's going to clear a lot of space. And to your point about not necessarily being an offensive hub, that seems like too big a word, but he's one of the most important things a modern big can do is dribble above the break to move the offense along without worry of getting picked off or
Yeah.
kind of trapped, without getting their dribble interrupted, so you can seamlessly transition between sets. And Pirtle is a guy who, if you do pressure that, he can have a pickup and feed to a back cut. He can turn it downhill with a live dribble and then create like a dribble handoff lower in the half court. that's where you want Duren and obviously
Yeah.
Stewart to end up. That's something that bigs develop over time is the
Yeah,
comfortability to move through
sorry
those
to
actions.
jump in here, but you
Y
couldn't be more correct. Because honestly, when I watched Stewart and Duran go into a DHO, man, even just watching him take one dribble, it's like that the chances of that getting picked off at the moment are high. So
yeah.
if you can have a big that can take a couple of dribbles and you can feel safe with the ball in their hands, like that's what Jakob brings. And it sounds like nothing, but it's also a lot.
Okay, so one guy before we get out of here, one of my favorite players to watch. He's a marvel. Had some bag in this game, like reached deep into it. Precious Achiuwa, 11 and 11 isn't a massive
So,
stat line, but he had some pop in this one. I'm curious what you thought of the Precious experience.
man, he got bogey a couple of times there in the fourth quarter, and he had a nice, I don't know if you call it like a stutter rip through, but
It's
oh
stutter rip,
man,
yeah.
Bogey was just standing there like he didn't even know what was going on. But no, I love Precious, and I was actually probably, as someone who honestly I haven't watched a whole lot of Raptors, I know Precious has got an increased role of late.
hmm
What sort of your opinion on him? I'd be more interested to
Okay,
hear what
so
your thoughts are.
I'm a massive Precious believer. I think he has an all-star, like I think he'll be an all-star at some point in his career because his
Like,
his defense, I
oh,
believe he is when he's on, he's all defense level type of defender. Offensively, you're kind of waiting for everything to coalesce, but as you saw at his size, like pulling out a stutter rip on bogey
yeah,
is really, really nice. And the fact that he's quick enough from the baseline to get to the front of the rim, that just doesn't happen. There's so
yeah,
little time to turn the corner to get to the front of the rim. You have to beat a guy by so much to get there, and he did. Really athletic. He's done this against all types of different players too, guards, wings, Joel Embiid in the playoffs, right? He's very impressive in that regard. Last season, he had a super hot shooting streak. Some people believe in that, some people don't. I think what was he? 0 for 2 from 3 in this game. He had a couple last game. That stuff is all kind of up in the air, but his fluidity on ball, he's a really like you have one of the best athletes in the NBA on the roster in Hamidou Diallo. The like balance,
yeah,
coordination, power, explosiveness. Precious Achiuwa similarly is one of the best athletes in the NBA too. So anytime he's able to kind of weaponize his mobility, I'm left extremely intrigued. And the handle was there for him to do that in this game. And he's a load. He's very hard to deal with. And those 11 rebounds, I think, make a lot of sense for this game. That
yeah,
he had 4 on the offensive end, he had 7 on the defensive end. He intrigues me to no end. He
yeah.
moves like a guard, but he's as strong as a big. Yeah.
Exactly, and I didn't mean to demean his
No, no,
plays on
absolutely not.
Bogdanovic. Like I couldn't agree more in terms of that fluidity
Mhm,
because as an athlete, and I think Precious is like 6'9", so he's
mhm,
only 6'5". But you look at Jaden Ivey; he's an explosive athlete, but he's a bit rigid in his approach. Whereas with Diallo and players like Achua, yeah, there's a fluidity in the way they like glide around the court, and
mhm.
yeah, I can see why you would be so excited. Like he's a player I'd love to have on the Pistons.
Yeah, there's like it would be like an RC car. It's rapid and it goes straight, but there's like an elastic band that's like has this woo
Yeah.
woo 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 thing to it. For the podcast listeners, I was kind of wriggling my hand. So imagine I'm describing wiggle for you. But Precious, I thought this was a super fun game for him. And I have to just for the Raptors fans listening at home, Chris Boucher, another pretty fun game. There's an award Jack, that I give out every single podcast. It's called the Reggie
Yeah.
Evans Award. You've been a fan for 10 years, so you may have caught Reggie Evans like
I know who
last
Reggie
season.
Evans is. One of
Are
the
you
best rebounders, played for the Nets. I know who he is.
okay? So
He's like 6'7", wasn't he? He's a
yeah,
small, but he's an awesome rebounder.
yeah. Like when he played for the Raptors, he started a few games. He was averaging like 4 points and 14 rebounds a game as a starter. Just like and doing all the dirty work he possibly could do. So we have an award around here. Every game, the Reggie Evans Award. Okay? It goes to the person who most embodies the Reggie Evans ethos. It's not necessarily who grabs the most rebounds, it's just
Uh,
like who was the grinder. On the Raptors, who was the grinder in your mind?
oh man, I wanted to bring up Malachi Flynn, but I'm not going to give him the award. Ah, man, I really enjoyed. I thought Scotty, like, I know he's the headline player almost, but
Yeah.
yeah, I thought Scotty just, he wasn't he wasn't scoring 30 points, but he sort of did all the little things. Really efficient game. Um, did a little bit of everything. So I'm gonna give it to Scotty Barnes.
Scotty, I think is a good one. It can be headliners. Headliners can be
Yeah.
gritty, grindy players as well. I think that's definitely okay. So yeah, Reggie Evans Award given out by Jack Kelly to Scottie Barnes. Congrats, Scotty. And what I do here is I read the top quick reaction comment. There's a feature on the website called the quick reaction where every player gets graded, and a lot of people comment afterwards, and they're very interested in all the grades, etc. I react to the top voted comment. This one says, from Christ, comma, man, quote, Scotty, 20 points, 6 field goal attempts. Fred, dot, dot, dot. So, end quote, by the way. I'm going to take this to mean that this is the take that Fred is selfish. It's a very popular theorem in Raptors fandom. I'm going to kind of reject this notion, though, at least for this game. I don't understand the nitpicking when Scotty, you want to see a guy take more than 6 shots. But in a game like this, and the way that the Pistons were defending, Scotty was obviously super effective as an ancillary or tertiary scorer, tertiary player. I think that he fit in extremely well in this game. And Fred, because of the way that the Pistons were defending with younger big men who are much better typically at help side rotations than they are at covering in the pick and roll, that means that Scotty's form of creation is a lot less valuable than Fred's, for
Yeah.
example. And so Fred, yes, he took 26 shots, but 35 points on 26 shots
Well,
is still good.
yeah. And
And he was,
as
yeah.
an outsider, sorry, a lot of the times the Pistons have been switching in the pick and roll a lot this season, but I felt like there was a few times they were playing drop and
Hmm.
Fred just punished them on that. So you're going to take that shot every time. Um, and I've just lost my thought, but I think Scotty blended in really nicely. We have similar things over at the Pistons with shot attempts and all that kind of thing. Killian Hayes is normally the subject of not getting enough shots or too many shots, but I as a Pistons fan watching that game, I didn't feel like Fred like took too many shots. He scored 16 points in the first quarter. So I know as someone who plays basketball, if I score 16, 20 points in a quarter, I'm going to keep getting shots up because I'm feeling hot. As long as they're in rhythm, like I didn't see it as Fred, shooting or not finding Scotty, etc.
Yeah.
For
I would
whatever my opinion's worth.
Yeah, yeah. It's worth something to me, so I hope it's worth something to the listener or the viewer. I would say that I think you could pick on Fred's defense in this game. I think he was pretty bad at the point of attack. Although the offense struggled early for the Raptors outside of Fred. Shots weren't going down. Pascal was struggling. Scotty wasn't creating. Where does the creation come from? Fred. He shouldered a lot of it throughout. I don't understand with the Raptors being a top 10 offense over the fortnight or past month or whatever. It's Fortnite's 2 weeks, but they've been top 10 over the past month. They might even be top 10 on the season still. But that's come with Fred's resurgence. And the Raptors' offense isn't the problem. I don't understand why people, even in a game where Fred gives you 35 and the Raptors score 119, we're looking at raw shot attempts to be like, what's going wrong here? The Raptors need to defend, man. Like that's what has to happen. And so Fred's defense, I could say, is a worthy critique. But that's not what the comment was saying. We're counting shot attempts at this point in time. So I know that it's very popular to kind of critique Fred and just he's been the whipping boy this year, Jack. If you weren't aware, Fred's been getting a lot of it. I think it doesn't make sense to critique his offense in this game. 35 on 26 is not like that's pretty damn good. You take that in it, and the offense for the team ran quite well. The defense though, I guess I'll get one last thing from you. Jaden Ivey, you said was getting to the middle of the floor, was turning the Raptors defense. That was Fred's check a lot of the time. I'm curious what you thought of that matchup. I suppose.
Well, I think Fred definitely got him on the other end as well of the
Yeah.
floor. So, but yeah, one of Fred VanVleet's calling cards has been his defense, I believe. Am I
Yep.
wrong with that assessment? So,
Earlier, there's been backlash this year. This is the first season of his career that the Raptors have had better numbers with him off the floor, and there's been some point of attack trouble for him for sure.
yeah, and he really struggled the first couple of months of the season. So look, I thought Jaden, yeah, he got by him, but Jaden has one of the best top 5 first steps in the league, I would say, and
Yeah,
I'd say that's quite unbiased a viewpoint. So yes, Jaden got by him. Yes, Fred probably struggled a little bit, but I don't know. How old's Fred now? He came in as an undrafted rookie. Is he nearly
he's
30?
28. Yep.
28. So he's still in his prime, I guess. But yeah, I'm not sure. I don't have a whole lot on that, unfortunately. But all I would say is Jaden does have one of the best first steps. And yeah,
Yeah. It's something it's a bit of a through line this season, kind of paying attention to Fred's defense when it might pick back up again. But
Uh,
it's a Herculean effort or errand to try and guard at the point of attack in the NBA. It's really tough to stop these
yeah.
guys. Jack, before we get out of here, is there any parting wisdom you'd like to tell us about the Pistons, or maybe some thoughts on the Raptors before we get on out?
I guess in terms of thoughts, I probably more had a question, and it's a bit of a deep cut, but who is the preferred backup point guard on this team?
Oh, yeah. That's
Banton or Malachi Flynn? Because I like
so
Malachi Flynn tonight, and I think he only had 5 points, but I just thought he was, pesky, made a couple of nice shots. Yeah, he is a bit undersized though, so I was interested in your thoughts.
Yeah. So in your mind, somebody says like Malachi Flynn's performance. I'm sure what pops up is the reverse finish with the left
Yeah,
hand after like the pump and go got into the lane. Obviously the pull up triple in transition, and probably the long rebound in the half court. Is that
yeah,
what is in your mind?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So Malachi has gotten a decent amount more, and you would probably remember Delano from the earlier on this in the season, November. He gave Detroit
yeah,
27 in a
yeah,
Raptors win. So you've seen both. Delano has had more time with the 905, less minutes than Flynn, and Flynn is a better shooter.
yeah,
It's Flynn has had a really tough time making it work with the Raptors. Who knows what happens with Poeltl and if there will be transitional lineups that let Flynn run more pick and roll or whatever. But I think the consensus has been that with his opportunities, Flynn hasn't done a good enough job of making himself into a serviceable backup guard. So the answer to who is the Raptors' backup guard is a great question. You know why? Because there isn't really an answer. They've been searching all season. Some of it is staggering Scottie and Pascal, so they're the ball handler when Fred hits the floor. There's also the fact that there's only 12, maybe even like 11 backup guard minutes available because Fred
yeah,
plays so often, right? And so the answer is neither. And neither has been compelling enough to change that equation, I suppose.
yeah. Yeah, no, that's a great answer. I was just interested because I saw Banton. He debuted last season, if I'm
Hmm.
correct.
Yep.
So I remember him last season, and I was just interested to see because I don't remember seeing Flynn as much. But um, like you said, Malachi just had a few key plays tonight that I
Yeah.
think, as someone who, when I watch a game, I'm primarily focused on the Pistons. Those plays stick out
Yeah.
more to me, and I probably miss a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, he was very good down the stretch because yes, he grabbed that extra rebound was important, but it's like what is the leverage of the shot you're making? And the fact that the Raptors were they give up a 7-0 run. It's like what 94 to 89 maybe. Flynn is out there, neither Fred or Pascal are out there, and Flynn gets the ball in transition, puts up a 3 and it goes in. That's a huge swing for the Raptors without their best guys on the floor and with the Pistons surging. So those ones, not just for you, I'm sure for Raptors fans, those really stick out as well. So yeah, I'm glad we talked about Flynn at least a little bit at the end because he had a nice little game.
Can I ask you one more question?
Yeah.
And it can just be a yes, no. In the off season, this Jakob trade makes things so muddled for me. So I was just going to say, do you think Pascal and Scotty are together next season on the roster?
Yes.
Okay.
And yeah,
Are you happy with
that
that?
mhm. I
I
do like them together. I know I so we did the live show, a few days ago, and I had somebody come up to me and ask me, and, they knew their basketball. They were insightful and everything, but they said, like, "There's just can't everybody see it? There's no way you win a championship with Pascal and Scottie as your best 2 players." And I think it's easy to say who won't win a championship. Like, it's easy to look at Pascal and Scottie and say, "That can't be the best 2 when you win a championship." And that's absolutely correct. But because I don't think they could be your best 2. It's just
yeah,
there's not enough there. Even if Pascal continues to improve, which would be crazy until he's, like, 32, and Scotty improves, I think they'll end up being super good together. But championship winning, there's, like, a couple guys,
yeah,
maybe a few every decade that drive championship winning teams. And so it's less about building around Scotty and Barnes and saying, like, "These 2 will take us to a championship." It's about building good teams and being able to, like, pivot when necessary and being
yeah,
able to move guys when necessary. Like, if the Raptors blew up their team earlier because they're like, "Well, DeRozan and Lowry can't win you a championship," sell everybody immediately, just like and tank or something like that, then they wouldn't have been in a position to trade for Kawhi Leonard, and they wouldn't have
yeah,
had, like, this incredibly deep team around, Kawhi and Kyle and Pascal and, their bench now, basically everybody who was on that bench is gonna end up getting paid, like, over $20 million a year because it's just, like, an incredibly deep team.
yeah,
You have to win games. You have to put guys in, like, winning, environments, and you have to make sure the team is good and so that they actually know what that's like, and so Scotty, I
yeah,
think it'll be really helpful for him not only to play with Siakam because they can win games together, but because Siakam has a lot to teach Scotty. Not that Scotty is going to grow like Siakam, he has different strengths, but if he can pick up some of the stuff that Siakam does, considering that he has unique, I guess, physical abilities that Pascal doesn't have, it's great. So I think they should be together for the foreseeable future. I like that for
yeah.
the Raptors. There's a long answer, but yeah.
No, no, that's good. That's great insight for someone like myself because I do agree there is something to be said for maintaining a level of um, just competitiveness slash success, not bottoming out. Like Detroit had to bottom out with the way they had been going, but like you said, you cited the Raptors. Probably, they definitely don't get that opportunity to trade for Kawhi if they blow up the Lowry, DeRozan backcourt. And although it didn't work out in Portland with Dame and CJ, a lot of people wanted them to blow it up, and obviously they eventually made the trade. It just didn't work out. But there's something to be said for having a 46 plus win season year in, year out. Like, I would kill for that as a Pistons fan. And I know, but once you build that, so if you do that 4 or 5 years, as you said, you can pivot and lure in that unhappy star or whoever's looking to move.
I still remember, I think it's like 2015 or 2014, probably 2015, when the Raptors, I remember all the comment sections, discussion boards were obsessed with this Kentavious Caldwell Pope plus a first rounder for DeMar DeRozan trade. And I just think what a disaster because Terrence Ross was also good on the wing. He was
Yeah,
burgeoning, and he made DeRozan look like, well, DeRozan doesn't shoot threes, and Terrence Ross shoots threes. Where's the league heading? And what a disaster that would have been. Like, it's the urge to. I think it's very fun to imagine scenarios where you tank and where things go bad, but you have to sit with the team while they try and improve.
mm,
And the Raptors currently have, like, as much as people dislike Fred's performances this year, as much as it seems like Pascal is trying to carry a team night in and night out to an underwhelming record, uh, the they made a decision to see if this team
yeah.
could win games. A win against Detroit doesn't validate anything, but and I don't mean any, I'm
Hey,
sure
no,
you'll share
no
this, and
shade.
there'll be a few Pistons fans who listen to my apologies. I think Cade is fantastic, and I can't wait to see what this team becomes, especially with Cade and Ivy. But the Raptors have to prove this against a lot of other teams, and we'll see. But I do like having competitive teams, especially as someone I got to go to the arena and talk to these guys and cover them. Half the games I've been to this season, practices, whatever, the vibe is like
Yeah.
considerably lower because the
Yeah.
team is not good, and there's a bunch of stuff that comes around because of that. But anyway, Jack, feel free to plug yourself on your way out. And before you do, can I just give a hearty cosign to any Raptors fan listening, anybody listening who likes basketball? If you're looking for Piston stuff, please consider Jack as the person who will provide it to you.
Hey, thank you so much, man. That means a lot. Yeah, you can find me over at Jack_Kelly_313 on Twitter. And pretty much all my writing at the moment is with Detroit Bad Boys of SB Nation. So if you're a Pistons fan or you're an Australian Raptors fan that wants to support an Aussie doing some NBA content, yeah, go check out all my stuff. And always feel free to hit up my DMs to talk hoops. I'm always open to chatting.
A man of the people. Jack, thank you so much for coming on. Listener, thank you for listening in. If you got onto this on YouTube, like the video, subscribe. Most importantly, go to raptorsrepublic.com and subscribe there. That's how you get all of my written work, all of Louis Satzman's written work. We think it's worth money. If you don't, that's okay too. And if you're listening on the podcast channel, thanks for letting us chop it up with you. Jack, thank you. Listener, thank you. Whether you got into this in the morning or at night, have a blessed day and goodbye.